In the grand tapestry of human history, some stories shine with a unique light. They tell us about hope, struggle, and the unyielding desire for freedom. The story of Liberia is one such tale. It is the story of a nation born not from conquest or ancient empires but from a powerful dream. A dream carried across an ocean. A dream of returning home. Imagine a place conceived in the hearts of those who had known the deepest forms of bondage. They envisioned a sanctuary, a land where where they could finally breathe the air of liberty. This nation, Africa's first republic, stands as a testament to that vision. Its very name whispers a promise, a declaration of its purpose and its soul. Liberia's story begins with its unique position on the African continent. Long before the wave of independence swept across Africa in the mid-20th century, Liberia stood alone. It was a self-governing republic, a sovereign nation established in 1847. This was an extraordinary achievement in an era when European powers were carving up the continent for their own gain. Liberia was a symbol. It was a bold statement that people of African descent could govern themselves, create their own laws, and build their own future. For a world that questioned their very humanity, Liberia's existence was a powerful and undeniable answer. It was a small but determined light on the West African coast, shining for all to see. The seeds of this nation were planted in a time of great turmoil and paradox in the United States. The early 19th century was a period of contradiction. The ideals of freedom and liberty were celebrated, yet the institution of slavery was deeply entrenched. Within this complex society, a growing population of free African Americans lived in a precarious state. They were no longer enslaved, but they were not truly free. They faced systemic discrimination, limited rights, and the constant threat of being forced back into bondage. For many, the American dream felt like a closed door. They yearned for a place where their freedom was not conditional, a place where they could truly belong. This yearning gave rise to a powerful idea, a return to the ancestral homeland of Africa. It was a dream fueled by both despair and hope. Despair over the injustices they faced in America, and hope for a future where they could build a society on their own terms. They imagined a land where their children could grow up without the shadow of prejudice, where they could cultivate their own culture and destiny. This dream of return was not just about finding a new place to live. It was about reclaiming a stolen heritage and forging a new identity, free from the chains of the past. It was a profound and emotional journey back to a beginning, a quest for a promised land. This powerful dream of return found an unlikely ally in the American Colonization Society, or ACS. Formed in 1816, the ACS was, well, a complex organization with a mix of motives. Some of its members were abolitionists who genuinely believed that sending freed African Americans to Africa was the most compassionate solution. They saw it as a way to offer them a chance at true self-determination, away from the racism that permeated American society. They believed that by establishing a colony in Africa, they could also help spread Christianity and Western civilization. Their intentions, from their perspective, were rooted in a desire to right a historical wrong. However, the ACS was also supported by slaveholders who had very different reasons. These individuals were not driven by compassion, they were driven by fear. They saw the growing population of free African Americans as a threat to the stability of the slave system. They worried that the presence of free black people would inspire enslaved individuals to seek their own freedom, leading to rebellions and social unrest. For them, colonization was a convenient way to remove this perceived threat from the United States. It was a way to maintain the status quo and protect their economic interests. This coalition of opposing viewpoints made the ACS a controversial but powerful force. Despite the mixed motives behind its creation, the ACS began to put its plan into action. The society raised funds, purchased a ship called the Elizabeth, and organized the first voyage. In early 1820, a small group of 86 free African Americans set sail from New York Harbor, bound for the coast of West Africa. This was a monumental journey into the unknown. These pioneers were leaving behind the only home they had ever known, facing the dangers of a long sea voyage and the uncertainties of a new land. They were guided by a fragile hope, a belief that a better life awaited them across the Atlantic Ocean. Their journey was fraught with difficulty. The initial landing at Sherbro Island, in modern-day Sierra Leone, was a disaster. The swampy conditions and tropical diseases took a heavy toll, and many of the first settlers died. But the survivors did not give up. They persevered, driven by the dream that had brought them so far. With the help of the ACS and the United States government, they negotiated for a new parcel of land further down the coast at Cape Mesurado. This small piece of land, purchased from local chiefs, would become the foundation of their new society. It was here that the dream of a free nation would finally begin to take root. As the fledgling settlement began to take shape on the shores of Cape Mesurado, its founders faced a crucial task. They needed a name. This was more than just a label for a piece of land. The name had to capture the very essence of their journey, their struggle, and their ultimate aspiration. It had to be a word that embodied the reason they had crossed an entire ocean to start anew. They were no longer just a collection of settlers. They were the architects of a new society, and its name would serve as its cornerstone, a declaration to the world of what they stood for and what they intended to build. The settlers and their supporters in the American Colonization Society searched for a word that could convey this profound meaning. They found their inspiration in the Latin language, the ancient tongue of law and civilization. They chose the word liber, which means free. From this powerful root, they crafted a new name for their new home: Liberia. It was a name that resonated with their deepest desires. It meant land of the free. For people who had been born into slavery or had lived their lives as second-class citizens, this name was more than just a geographical designation. It was a promise, a prayer, and a profound statement of identity. The choice of the name Liberia was a deeply emotional and symbolic act. It represented a deliberate break from a past defined by bondage and oppression. In America, the word liberty was often spoken, but for them, it had been a hollow and elusive concept. Now on the coast of Africa, they were claiming that word for themselves. They were redefining what liberty meant. It was not something to be granted by a master or a government. It was an inherent right, a state of being that they would build and defend with their own hands. The name Liberia became the embodiment of their collective dream of self-determination and human dignity. This new name immediately set their settlement apart. It was a bold declaration in a world where the freedom of black people was constantly being challenged. By calling their home Liberia, they were sending a message of hope to enslaved and free African Americans back in the United States. They were creating a tangible symbol that freedom was possible, that a nation built on the principle of liberty for all people of African descent could exist. The name itself became a beacon, a call to others who shared their dream of a life free from the shackles of prejudice and inequality. It was the first chapter in their story of creating a nation of their own. With a name for their new country, the settlers also needed a name for their capital, the heart of their new society. They chose to name their main settlement Monrovia. This decision was a gesture of gratitude toward a key figure who had supported their cause from afar: United States President James Monroe. As the fifth president of the United States, Monroe was a supporter of the American Colonization Society. He used his political influence to secure funding and resources from the United States Congress for the colonization project. Without his backing, the difficult early years of the settlement might have been impossible to overcome. Naming the capital Monrovia was a strategic as well as a symbolic choice. It helped maintain a crucial link to the United States, their former home, and their most powerful ally. The settlers knew they were vulnerable. They were a small community on a vast continent, surrounded by established local populations, and the ever-present threat of European colonial ambitions. By honoring President Monroe, they were acknowledging the support they had received and hoping to ensure its continuation. Monrovia was to be the center of their new government, their commerce, and their cultural life, a city named in honor of a distant president who helped make their dream a reality. However, the founding of Liberia and Monrovia was not a simple story of triumph. The arrival of the Americo-Liberian settlers, as they came to be known, created immediate and lasting challenges. The land they settled was not empty. It was home to numerous indigenous ethnic groups, each with its own rich history, culture, and social structure. These local communities had lived on the land for centuries. The settlers, arriving with their Western customs, Christian faith, and American-style clothing, were seen as outsiders. The initial land transactions were often fraught with misunderstandings, stemming from different concepts of land ownership and authority. These cultural and political tensions created a complex and often difficult relationship between the settlers and the indigenous peoples. The Americo-Liberians, having escaped oppression in America, ironically established a society where they became the ruling elite. They created a social hierarchy that often excluded the indigenous majority from power and opportunity. This created deep divisions that would shape Liberian history for generations to come. The early years in Monrovia were therefore a mixture of hope and hardship, a time of building a new future while simultaneously struggling with the complexities of creating a unified nation from diverse groups of people. For over 2 decades, the settlements of Liberia existed in a state of limbo. They were governed by the American Colonization Society, a private organization based thousands of miles away. The settlers had more autonomy than they ever had in America, but they were not yet a truly sovereign nation. They could not make treaties with other countries or fully control their own trade. As the colony grew and developed, the desire for complete self-governance became stronger. The Americo-Liberian leaders realized that to secure their future and take their place on the world stage, they needed to sever their ties with the ACS and declare themselves an independent republic. This was a bold and risky step. In the mid-19th century, the idea of a self-governing black republic was radical. It challenged the racist ideologies that underpinned slavery and colonialism. By declaring independence, Liberia would be making a powerful statement about the capabilities of people of African descent. On July 26, 1847, the settlers took that historic step. They signed their Declaration of Independence and adopted a constitution modeled after that of the United States. Liberia was officially born as a free and sovereign nation, a moment of immense pride and significance for its founders. The Declaration of Independence sent ripples across the world. For abolitionists and black leaders in America and the Caribbean, it was a moment of profound inspiration. Liberia became a symbol of hope, a tangible example of black self-determination. It was proof that a nation founded and governed by former slaves and their descendants could not only exist, but also thrive. It stood as a beacon of freedom in a world where the vast majority of people of African descent were still living under the brutal systems of slavery or colonial rule. Liberia's independence was a powerful counter-narrative to the prevailing racist attitudes of the era. However, gaining recognition for their new status was a struggle. Great Britain was one of the first major powers to recognize Liberian independence in 1848, but other nations were slower to act. The United States, the very country from which the settlers had come, did not officially recognize Liberia until 1862. The delay was due to the politics of slavery. Southern states feared that recognizing a black republic would undermine their own institution of bondage. Despite these diplomatic challenges, Liberia held its ground, becoming Africa's first and for a long time, only republic, a lonely but resolute symbol of black liberty on the world stage. To represent their new sovereign status, the founders of Liberia created powerful national symbols, a flag, and a motto. Each element was carefully chosen to tell the story of their journey and their values. The Liberian flag, with its red and white stripes and a single white star on a blue field, bears a striking resemblance to the flag of the United States. This was intentional. It was a nod to the country they had left behind, the land of their birth, and a recognition of the American support that had helped establish their new home. The connection was a complex one, acknowledging a painful past while also honoring the ideals of liberty that both nations professed to uphold. But the Liberian flag has its own unique and profound meaning. The 11 stripes represent the 11 signatories of the Liberian Declaration of Independence, the brave men who risked everything to forge a new nation. The red stripes symbolize the courage and valor required to build their country, while the white stripes signify purity and moral clarity. The single white star shining brightly in the blue square represents something truly special. It symbolizes Liberia as the first independent black republic in Africa, a lone star of freedom on a continent that was largely under colonial domination. The blue field represents the African continent itself, the homeland to which they had returned. Alongside the flag, the new nation adopted a motto that perfectly encapsulated its founding story: "The love of liberty brought us here." This simple yet powerful phrase is the heart of the Liberian identity. It speaks directly to the core motivation of the settlers. They were not conquerors or colonists in the traditional sense. They were refugees from oppression, pilgrims seeking a sanctuary where they could live in freedom. The motto is a constant reminder of the immense sacrifices made by the pioneers who left everything they knew behind in pursuit of the fundamental human right to be free. It is etched into the nation's soul. Together, the flag and the motto serve as enduring symbols of Liberia's unique origins. They tell a story of pain and perseverance, of a journey across an ocean from bondage to freedom. They represent the dream of a people to create a society based on the principle of liberty, a place where they could finally be masters of their own destiny. These symbols are not just historical artifacts, they are a living part of Liberia's national consciousness, reminding its citizens and the world of the powerful idea that brought their nation into being, the profound and unbreakable love of liberty. Today, on October 23, 2025, the name Liberia continues to echo with the weight of its extraordinary history. It stands as a powerful symbol of freedom, identity, and the resilience of the human spirit. The nation's journey has not been easy. It has faced immense challenges, including political instability, economic hardship, and the deep-seated divisions between the descendants of the settlers and the indigenous population. These struggles are a part of its complex story, a reminder that the path to building a truly unified and equitable nation is long and arduous. The love of liberty brought them there, but the work of building a just society is an ongoing process. The name itself, Liberia, the land of the free, remains a source of immense national pride. It is a reminder of the country's pioneering role as Africa's first republic, a nation that dared to declare its freedom long before others. For Liberians, the name is more than just a word, it is a legacy. It connects them to the brave pioneers who crossed an ocean with nothing but hope in their hearts. It is a testament to their ancestors' unwavering belief in the possibility of a better world, a world where they could be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character, in a land they could truly call their own. Reflecting on the origin of Liberia's name is a journey into the heart of the human condition. It is a story about the universal desire for freedom and belonging. It shows us that even in the face of unimaginable oppression, the dream of a better life can inspire incredible acts of courage and determination. The story of Liberia is a reminder that names have power. They can carry the hopes of a generation, define the identity of a nation, and serve as a guiding star for the future. The name Liberia is a monument to a dream, a testament to a journey, and a promise of freedom that continues to inspire. Ultimately, Liberia's story is a vital chapter in the larger narrative of Africa and the African diaspora. It is a story of return, of reclaiming a heritage, and of building a new identity from the ashes of a painful past. The name Liberia will forever stand as a monument to this incredible journey. It is a symbol of resilience, a declaration of independence, and a timeless celebration of the enduring power of freedom. It is, and always will be, the land of liberty, a place born from the powerful dream of being free. What do you think of Liberia's story? Read more true stories, like this on our blog. Which country's name should we explore next? Drop your suggestion below.